Thank you for joining us for this week's message at Crosswind Church. During the summer series, The Ultimate Summer Packing List, Jeremy encourages us to take our faith with us wherever we go, so we don't waste the time that God has given us this summer. If you have any questions about this message or about Crosswind Church, please visit our website at www.crosswindchurch.net or email us at info@crosswindchurch.net.
As they are done packing up and all of that kind of stuff, I want to conduct a little survey. I need your help. Show of hands is what I'm looking for. You see this cup? Everybody can see this glass that has water in it. Okay. How many people, if you had to describe this glass, would say that glass is half full? Hands up. Liars. Okay. And that's good. That's good. And how many would say that this glass is half empty? Yeah, people, thank you. All the normal folks. Okay, and how many of you all would say that the glass is twice as big as it needs to be? No, that's an engineer question. I was really expecting one of my engineers to. Okay, so I don't know when this kind of came to be or when this was like a test for personality traits, but you all know what I'm getting at. For years and decades and maybe centuries, millennia, I don't know. If you describe the glass as half full, then you are dubbed an optimist. Congratulations. Now, if you came and you said the glass is half empty, then you would be kind of labeled, a pessimist, right? Because you see the negative. I'm not saying that one is good and one is bad or not. I think that's just how people are wired. God wired different people in different ways, and your wiring is neither bad nor good. Sometimes what I say is it's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. That's just how you're wired, right? And so I'm just going to tell you, you all know this about me, I've been around long enough. I tend to be pessimistic in my outlook. You call me pessimistic, my wife calls me pessimistic. I say I'm realistic, right? Not true. I'm just pessimistic. And so because of that, there's something that you can know about my wiring and how I'm kind of made up. It is very easy for me, it's very natural for me to recognize everything that is wrong first. That's what I do. So that makes me really fun to have around at parties, right? Because my wife, this is what happens all the time in my house. My wife comes in and she'll be like, "Oh, Jeremy, we should do this for vacation." Or, "Oh, Jeremy, we should go over here and do this, and we should buy this and live in this sort of house and go to this kind of place." And I go, "Well, it would be great, but it's hurricane season, wah, wah." Well, we could do that if I won the lottery, because we certainly couldn't afford that, wah, wah, right? And it's like living with a big Debbie Downer. In fact, it even kind of translates over into my professional life sometimes. If I'm not real careful, I can just kind of see what's negative first rather than what's positive. It's how I'm wired. I recognize that this was a problem. The first full-time position that I ever had in the church, I worked with a guy that's wired just like me times 10. Like, you think I'm bad. He taught me how to do this. And so every Tuesday, we would sit down, he and I, with the worship pastor, and we would critique the service. That's what we did. We would evaluate, see what went well, what went wrong. And that should happen. Matt and I, on Tuesday, in fact, we'll sit down and we'll evaluate the service, what went well, what didn't go well, what we need to change, that sort of thing. The problem that happens when you take two people that are wired half empty wise and put them in a room to critique something is that what should have been an hour-long meeting or a 30-minute critique becomes a 3-hour process. Every Tuesday, we would start at 9, and finally, when we were so hungry we couldn't stand it anymore, we would go to lunch. That's the way that kind of worked. It became so bad that there would be some Sundays where I could preach, and I got about every 5 or 6 Sundays it was my responsibility to preach, and so I would preach, and I would feel like, because I only preached so often, I would get weeks to prepare for my message, and so I would feel pretty good about it. And I delivered the message, and I was like, "Hey, I think that went pretty good." I had visual aids, and I was trying to be funny and stuff like that, and then we would come into the meeting, and 3 hours later, I'm in the fetal position in the corner over there weeping, because he just picked apart everything that I had. It was so bad for us. And when we were in Texas, that we actually, I was thinking about this today, I'm ashamed of this, I laugh at it now, and he and I were laughing about it together. We said August is critique-free month. We take a month off. Can't say anything bad in August, right? And that was where we started the practice of talking about wins. If we don't stop and share wins, things that were successful, it's real easy for people like me to kind of hone in on kind of the negative. And I don't like that because it's silly. I have all kinds of reasons to be positive. I have all kinds of great things that kind of are going on in my life and with my family and my job and all kinds of cool stuff. And so I know that if I'm careful, the way I'm wired will make me kind of be this Debbie Downer, this Eeyore type. So I try to do things to make it better. And I feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I'm doing some good. And things are kind of moving in the right direction. And then every time, this is what happens. Something happens. Somebody says something. I've hacked somebody off. Somebody doesn't like this, or doesn't like me, or doesn't like the family, or doesn't like the car, or doesn't like my house, or whatever. And I get that, or in my case, a lot of times, I'll say something stupid to my wife. And then we're right back to where we are. And I go, oh, hold on, everything is just dreary, and everything's so bad, and I don't have any reason to be happy, and it's absolutely silly. Maybe you've been there, right? Maybe you get to the point in your life where you feel like you're just starting to get your legs up under you, and you feel like things are starting to move in the right direction, and you feel like things maybe are starting to come together, and then life happens. And the walls kind of cave in just a little bit, and you start saying things that you wouldn't normally say. You say things like, man, am I ever, with the economy the way it is, am I ever going to be able to get out of debt and retire? Man, is my marriage ever going to be whole again? I remember when we got married, we were best friends, and now we're just not that anymore. It's just not the way. Will my wife ever forgive me? Will my kids ever get it together? Some of you, will my kids ever move out? Right? You got to say these things, right? When life kind of happens, and it's real easy, if we're not careful, to kind of take something we're trying to be so positive, so good, and kind of just kind of become negative and become kind of dreary. It's as if, I'm talking about it's as if we have an enemy that doesn't want us to be joyful. It's as if maybe our matter of joy or happiness is a matter of spiritual warfare. Now, what's interesting, I got to think about this. I got to think about how easy is for Satan to kind of get us off track. How easy is it for him to kind of take something that's good and make it something that's bad? And I got to thinking about that this weekend as I was studying and reading. I thought maybe one of the reasons that it's so easy for that to happen is because it's so easy for us as adults to kind of get caught up in the routine, mundane aspects of life, isn't it? I mean, come on. Your schedule is probably not all that different from mine. I get up in the morning and I shower. I always do that. And I brush my teeth and I get dressed and then I go to work. And it's meetings, and it's paperwork, and it's on the computer, and it's planning, and it's all of those things that you do at work. And lunchtime comes, and for me, that's normally another meeting that I have to go to and eat during, and maybe I eat a crummy sandwich, right? And I come back in the afternoon, and I do more work when the day ends. I show up at the house, and there's yard work to be done. Maybe you have a yard to mow. You've got dishes to be done, laundry to fold, the house to clean. Then you maybe scarf down some dinner just in time to hop back in the car and carry the kids to play practice or to softball or to whatever it is you're doing. So you run home at the end of the night, it's way past bedtime. They try to finish their homework. You kiss them, put them in bed, and then you collapse on the couch for about 2 seconds until you fall asleep in the recliner. And then it's time for you to go to bed and get up and do it all again tomorrow. Is your schedule kind of like mine? Yeah. The thing is that when you get in that routine, and you get in that mundane, kind of predictable over and over and over again, it's real easy for us to miss those moments that capture joy. It's easy for us to miss that. But there are people that are in this room here today who don't miss those moments. You know who they are? They're our children. Let me talk to you about this. A few months ago, we went to down the beach with some friends of ours. We talked about that. There were 9 children, 6 adults. And our day, also, even on vacation, fell into a routine. Get up in the morning, go to the beach, come home, eat some lunch, go to the pool. That's what it was. And if you have ever experienced 9 children, 12 and under in a pool, let me tell you how that kind of goes. The dads get sucked into playing. We're the ones in the pool. And I'm really thankful the deep end of the pool was 5 feet because that meant I could touch. And here's what happened with 9 kids. One of them, maybe it's one of mine, maybe it's not. I don't know. At that point, they're all mine. There's just a herd of kids. You want to make sure you have 9 at the end of the day. And so one of them would swim up to me. This always happens. Swim up to me, and they'd go, Uncle Jerry. And I would go, hey, yeah, what's up there? Uncle Jerry, would you throw me? What that means is, for those of you that don't know, or if you've gotten to the point where you don't have kids to do this anymore, that means they want me to pick them up and chunk them across the pool as far as I can. Now, this may sound a little bit bad at first, but in a day where you have 9 children and you've already been to the beach, you get to relieve some tension. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just pick it, just chunk them as far as you can across the pool, and they're doing belly flops and back busters and face plants right into the water, and that's kind of what's happening. And here's what happens. Watch, this is so amazing. You got kids, especially little kids, you know this. They land in the water, and you think, surely they're done. They turn around, swim back. In some cases, they form a line. Swim back. Uncle Jeremy, you throw me again? Really? And so you throw them until your arm is jello, until you can't do it anymore, and they still swim back. And what do they say? Do it. Yeah. See, there's something about our children that I think is a reflection of our Heavenly Father, that monotony doesn't bother them. They want the same thing over and over and over again. They want the predictability over and over and over again. And as adults, we're not strong enough to exalt in monotony. But do you know why? This is so cool. Do you want to know who is strong enough to exalt in monotony? G.K. Chesterton wrote about this. He said, our Heavenly Father is strong enough to exalt in monotony. It is possible, he says, I'm paraphrasing the quote again. It is possible that God says to the sun every morning, do it again. And every evening says to the moon, do it again. It is possible that God makes every daisy individually, yet never grows tired of making them. Our God exalts in the joys of our monotony, but we, you and I, we have sinned and grown old, he says, and our Father is younger than we. Wow, that's amazing. And so if we want to become more like our Heavenly Father, which I know we do, then we're going to have to figure out some way to capture those moments of life that come our way and recognize the joy in them, looking past the mundane and past our circumstances, straight into the face of Jesus Christ. And what better way for us to get started and to learn from that than from a book about celebration, a book that largely has to do with songs lifted up to God of thanks and of praise. In the book of Psalms, we're going to be in Psalm 118. And I'm going to begin in verse 1. If you're new to Crosswind, the way we do this is I read a little bit and talk a little bit, read a little bit and talk a little bit. We'll keep on going. Verse 1, the writer of the psalm says this: give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, his love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, his love endures forever. Now, here's the thing that I think we miss sometimes when we only read the Bible in our English translations. See, that little word that I have translated in my Bible, love, some Bibles translate loving kindness, but it's a little Hebrew word, hesed, H-E-S-E-D. And it's this idea of a covenantal, everlasting type of love. And the Hebrews, when they would have read this, they would have understood exactly what it was that they meant. It's the Old Testament term to the way that the church used the term agape in the New Testament. It's a love that shows that God always keeps his promises. And for the Jews, that was so true, wasn't it? Because God had made a covenant, an agreement with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses, that he would give them a land that wasn't theirs, and that he would lead them out of slavery and captivity. And then guess what God did? He did what he said. He kept his promise. And so when the Jews heard that, they were going, yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter what my circumstances are, because I know my God is a God that keeps his promises to save those out of oppression. For those of us that are followers of Christ today, we know that we also serve a God that keeps his promises. And how we know that? Because a long time ago, a man named Jesus, who was God in the flesh, walked on this earth, and he told his followers something. He said, listen, some evil men are going to kill me, they're going to bury me. I'm going to rise from the dead. And then, ready for this? He did it. I mean, he did it. And no one was expecting it. And the reason we know he did it was not because it's written here in the Bible, but because people who saw Jesus alive have told the story and written down the story. Were willing to die for the fact that they saw Jesus alive. Here's my news to you today. Here's what I want us to understand about his love enduring forever. Y'all, I know your circumstances can be crummy. And I know that the numbers don't add up and the relationship is broken. And I know that you are going through some stuff right now. You serve a God that keeps his promises. There will come a day, we may not see it on this side of heaven, but there will come a day when every wrong will be made right, and every tear will be wiped away, and every disease will be healed forever. Tracking? Oh man, that's so cool. Think about that. He goes on and continues. a little bit longer of the section this time. Look at verse 5. The psalmist says, when hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He is my helper. I look in triumph on my enemies. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. All the nations surround me. But in the name of the Lord, I cut them down. They surround me on every side, but in the name of the Lord, I cut them down. They swarmed around me like bees, but they were consumed as quickly as burning thorns. In the name of the Lord, I cut them down. I was pushed back and about to fall, but the Lord helped me. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. Now, if anybody had some stuff going on, some bad circumstances, it's the writer of this psalm. There's some debate about historically where this kind of fits, but the idea is still there, right? Here's a guy that's oppressed by enemies. Here's a guy whose enemies scoff at him and laugh at him and mock him and are in danger of taking him over, maybe even putting him into slavery, maybe even putting him to death. That was what he faces. So here's the question. How is the psalmist able to give praise to God, able to give thanks to God in the midst of such daunting circumstances? He says it very clearly. Because my God, is my strength. And the psalmist was more concerned about the God that was beside him than he was about the obstacles that were in front of him. He knew that ultimately the size of his God was greater than the size of any of the obstacles that he was able to face. And it was a focus, perspective issue. If I'm taking my focus off of my circumstances and I'm placing them on my Heavenly Father. There's a part in here I kind of want to key on something. It's so apt for today. He says this, just one more thing. He says, better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. It's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. Here's something that I've observed over the last 2 weeks. If this bothers some of you, can email me at hunter@crosswindchurch.com. You're actually the new guy. Send it to Matt at crosswindchurch.com. Here's the deal. The last 2 weeks we've had the Republican National Convention and we've had the Democratic National Convention. I've done my best to kind of watch a little bit of both, although I haven't seen all of any of it. But here's what I saw. See, their platforms are different. We know that. We can discuss kind of what they stand for in different parties. But their message was the same, both sides. Here's the message. If you elect our candidate, everything's going to be great. Right? And if you elect the other candidate, everything is going to be horrible. That's what it is. Both sides, same message. And so it was, how great is our candidate? Lift him up. How horrible is the other candidate? I watched 2 weeks of it, right? This is all that happened. And then, depending on which news channel you watch, it was the same way with the news reporters, right? Exactly the same way. And here's the thing that I think I struggle with. We live in the United States of America, and we should get involved in the political system. And we should go vote. That, my wife teaches and taught government for a long time. That is your constitutional right and your civic duty to go exercise your right to vote. That's what you should go and do. And you have a country where you can get involved in politics and be a part of it and making that decision. That's so good. But as I watched social media following the conventions, this is what the message was on social media. I saw, hey, if so-and-so is elected, both sides, I'm moving to another country. And then the people that responded, whatever. Or if so-and-so gets elected, I'm going to go buy every gun that I can and hoard all the ammunition and all this kind of stuff and that's fine. I saw all of these different things. And what I saw that really kind of troubled me is this. It's real easy for us to put our focus on and place our trust in a political candidate or a political system. And become so convinced that if Hillary or Donald, either one is elected, that the world is either going to be perfect and peachy or it's going to be miserable. The problem is this. In 4 years or 8 years, whoever it is we elect, they're going to be gone and doing something else. But in 8 years, when they're gone and we're doing something else, my God is still going to be on the throne. So here's what you got. What psalmist is saying. It's not wrong to get involved in the political system. Do that. Man, praise God and live in the country where we can do that. Go do it. But the second that we start placing our trust in a candidate is the second that we'll get let down. Not because they're a Republican or a Democrat, because they're human. And when we place anybody other than Jesus Christ on a cross, we end up crucifying him. I'm just telling you. He says it right here. Y'all, it is so much better to trust in God. It's so much better because He's everlasting. He never goes anywhere. And by the way, the kingdoms of men are given to who He pleases. Come on. All right, anyway, I'll let you speak for that. All right, I've watched a lot of convention stuff. All right. Anyway, whew. All right. He kind of goes on. He goes, the reason why I can give thanks in the midst of horrible circumstances is because I know God is in control. I know a God that does all of this and more. I know a God that's better than any king, than any prince, than any president, a God that I'm going to place my trust in. I'm moving my focus away from my circumstances, and I'm placing them on my God. Look what he says next. He says, verse 15, shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. The Lord's right hand is lifted high. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. I will not die, but live. I have proclaimed what the Lord has done. The Lord has chastened me severely, but He has not given me over to death. He says, the other reason that I can give thanks in this horrible circumstances is because I remember that the right hand of God has done mighty things. For the Jews, let me tell you what that meant. For the Jews, that meant that they were once found in oppression in Egypt. Slaves to a Pharaoh that claimed to be God himself. And they worked for him and served him. And finally God says, I hear the cry of my people and I'm going to deliver them. I'm going to do a mighty work by bringing them out of Egypt. And there were plagues and parting of the Red Sea. God held back their enemies in the wilderness and fought on their behalf as they moved towards the promised land and gave them a land that they did not deserve. And later, when they would be sent into captivity into Assyria and Babylon, God was faithful. And He restored them, bringing them back so that they could build their temple again and build the walls around the city of Jerusalem again. The people of Israel, when they would have read this, they would go, yeah, I get it. God has done amazing things. Do you realize that He's still doing amazing things? Do you realize that? Let me tell you about one that happened just this last week. I haven't got permission to share this story, but I'm telling you anyway. Do you realize that we had 4 babies in like a 4-day period? I mentioned that last Sunday. And 2 of them were twins. So I don't know if that counts as 1 or 2. I don't know. It's kind of cheating a little bit. But regardless, they had twins. And Samantha and Jonathan Whittington had twins. And Samantha had some complications. She was not doing well. And was in the hospital. Had spent in the hospital about a week in the hospital down in Jackson. And didn't even get to hold the babies until days after they were born. It was kind of a bad situation. And my heart broke for them. And they finally got released last Wednesday, as in like a few days ago, to come home. And I was so excited. I got the call from Jonathan. He's like, man, we're on our way home. Everything's good. And he was nervous because he had to take the babies to the doctor by himself. 2 babies, super dad, like, all right, let's do it, okay? And so he was going to do that. And so later that evening, at about 8:30 or so, I remembered he had that doctor's visit with the babies. I wanted to see how it was. So I texted him. And I said, how was it? How the babies do? And he was like, oh man, Dr. Stone was great. And I'm on my way to the emergency room with Sam right now. In Union City, yes, because you got to check here. They'll go to some other places. And he's like, yeah, Union City. I said, I'm on my way. We went down to the emergency room. And about 5 or 6 hours later, I don't remember, they come back and the doctor walks in and he says, well, we've got a little bit of a problem. See, it's not really all that uncommon for people that have had surgery and C-section twins, and they were both over 6 pounds, babies. And he said, you have a blood clot in your lung. That's what we call a pulmonary embolism, PE. And this blood clot seems to be pretty stable. It's kind of wedged in there pretty good. It's not going anywhere. But there could be others. So we need to treat it. We need to dissolve it. We need to make sure you don't have any more clots, because one of these clots breaks loose and goes to the lung or goes to the brain. So you don't know. It don't hurt. It's pretty scary. And so he's like, we got to get you down to Jackson, because we need to get this treated. We can't keep you here. So we prayed and we sent out notifications for people to pray and hey, just pray for Samantha and Jonathan. We've got pulmonary embolism, it could be bad, and we need to, she's going down to Jackson to get taken care of. So I came home about 3 or so in the morning, went to sleep on Wednesday night, got up on Thursday and drove to Jackson and was there by about 9 o'clock. I walk in, they've started treatment with her, things are going better, she's already feeling a little more comfortable. It's nice just to kind of know what's wrong, and so neither of them they hadn't slept in a while. It could have been days. I don't know. You know how it is. You got newborn twins and a mom that's not doing well. Nobody's sleeping. Okay, everybody's nervous and everybody's worried. And so we kind of concocted this plan. When I say we, Matt and Olivia and all the family and Brooke and all of them just kind of said, okay, here's what's going to happen. Jeremy is going to drive Jonathan back to the city so he can sleep. She didn't do, by the way. Anyway, I may lose a fight. There's going to be a fight. Okay. Anyway, and so I bring him back, and he goes, he's supposed to go to bed, he doesn't, but I'm here for the rest of the day, and I don't bother him because I want him to be asleep. And the next morning, I get this text. And he goes, hey, 3 pulmonologists later, no pulmonary embolism. There's a spot there, but it's not a blood clot like I thought. You know, it was just kind of her lung kind of waking back up from the surgery, and she'll be fine. They're discharging her this afternoon. And you know, we could sit here and we could say things like, you know, yay, and they made a mistake, and all that. I'm just naive enough to believe that maybe my God had something to do with it, right? You see, God still does mighty things, and it's easy for us to see those big things, but do you realize God does things all the time? This morning, He said to Boo, go down, and son, go up, do it again. And how cool is that? I don't know anybody else that can do that. If I did that, I just, like all the time, yeah, that's why I'm too ADD to do that. Like I can't do that. And the fact that this morning, on your own, maybe with the help of a plumber, like you woke up and are walking around in creation today again. You see, the problem is we become so used to God's grace and so used to the mundane, ritualistic of waking up and doing that we miss those moments that we can grab a hold of and see what God is doing and give Him thanks and praise because of what He's doing. This is one of those things I think hunters get right. Hunters get right. See, I heard hunters my entire life, and they say things like this. They always, hunters are all kind of called like this. If it's not true, that's not to do it. They would say things like, they would say things like, I tell you what, you get in the deer stand before the sun comes up, or in the duck line before the sun comes up, and you watch the woods come alive, squirrels get to moving, birds get to chirping, and I'm telling you, there's nothing in the world like it. And I'm like, y'all, nothing good happens before the sun comes up. Nothing. Like seriously, the sun is up, you got a gun and camo. Nothing good can come from that. And then, it's so amazing. And then these guys, my friends, they got me hunting. They would take me out, and I would sit in duck blinds and deer stands. And I remember the first time I sat in a deer stand, and the sun kind of rose. I was like, dude, that's cool. And I'll never forget. I was sitting in a duck blind. Kelly Powers was right here, and Ross Clark was right here. We were waiting for the sun to come up because we don't want to break law, shoot before the sun comes up. We're waiting for sunrise, official time. As the sun kind of rose to our east, we kind of had a clear shot of it where we were looking straight into the east. And as the sun came up, I'll never, ever forget this. There may be other stuff going on for me. It was just dead silent. And the sun refracted in the clouds, and it was this beautiful pinky orange kind of color. And it was like nothing I had ever seen. And I remember thinking, get it. See what they're able to do it in the quietness of the woods, in the quietness of the duck blind, is they're able to grasp a hold of one of those mundane moments and recognize the beauty and the joy. That's it. When God says to the Son, do it, that's remarkable. The reason He said that I can give God praise is because He has done great things and He's continuing to do great things. And look what He says next. He's done the greatest thing. Look at verse 19. Open for me the gates of righteousness. I will enter and give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord, through which the righteous may enter. I will give you thanks, for you answered me. Look at this last verse. I love it. You have become my salvation. The stone that the builders rejected have become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. The Lord has done it this very day. Let us rejoice and be glad. You want to know what He's saying here? See, we know on this side of the cross that when He talks about the stone that the builders rejected, and He talks about the way to salvation, we know now that He's talking about Jesus. We know now He's talking about the God that we worship here today. So not only does God do amazing things and cause the sun to rise and the moon to rise and the stars to come out, not only does He do that, but God has entered into our timeline. And He has given us hope when we didn't have hope. And He's given us a relationship with God where our relationship with God has been broken. And although our circumstances are not as we might like them to be, God is at work fixing what sin has broken, and He's done it this very day through Jesus Christ. And if that is the only good thing that you see, that's enough. It's enough. But it's not. That's it. So I was thinking, how do we do this? As a guy that's a glass half empty kind of guy, what are some things that I can do? And I got to thinking, you know what? Some of us need to get new friends. Not me, I have great friends, right? Some of y'all need to get new friends. Because you're around those friends that are like all negative all the time, you know what I'm talking about? With those people that are just Eeyores. Thanks for those. Right? Those people that never find anything good, that are always finding things negative. Let me tell you, find somebody that's really, truly got a joy in their heart and get around them. That stuff will ooze off on you. Right? There's a friend of mine in Alabama who is a part of what they call the Grandma's Club. Right? Grandma's Club. There are about 4 grandmas, and they all live on the same street, and they're best buds, and they play bunco together and stuff like that, and card games, and they hang out and do stuff, and take pictures of each other's grandbabies and all that kind of stuff. They kind of hang out. And her name is Judy McDonald. We call her Judy Mac. Judy Mac has not had everything go right for her in her life. Judy Mac has had some really kind of lousy things go on familially in her family. You know what I mean? Right? Things maybe not as she would want. But she signs every card. She sends every email. At the very bottom, she puts 2 initials, HH. Stands for happy heart. Because she it's naive enough to believe that passage in Proverbs that say a happy heart leads to a cheerful face. She has a cheerful face. Why? Because she has a happy heart. And I'm telling you, you can't get around Judy Mac and not smile. It just oozes off on you. Let me tell you about somebody that's here. I heard the story a couple weeks ago. I got permission from Debbie Hill to share it. Right now, Jeff Deerling, my boy Jeff Deerling, is the guy that comes and cleans our building. We pay him a little bit to do that. We're thankful that he does that. But before that, at Crosswind Church, we had home groups that came and cleaned the church building. They would come every week and do that. They were on a rotating basis. And what would happen, you guys know this, those of you that do home group, go to home group, like, that's not a fun thing to do. We're not interested in coming and scrubbing toilets. And so, inevitably, people would stop coming, or a group would be like, nobody can make it, we're not going to do it by ourselves. And Debbie told a story, and Linda Rice isn't here today to hear you tell the story. So, but she told a story. Her home group came one time to clean the building, and Debbie and Linda were the only ones that showed up to clean. Debbie, the way she tells it someplace, and I was mad. And Linda's just like, look, we'll clean it. We'll get it taken care of. And she said, Debbie, you take the kitchen, and I'll clean the bathroom. So Debbie's in the kitchen, and in her words, she said, and I'll scrub it, and I was really scrubbing. Right? She was unhappy about being here. Now, I don't know if Debbie did this. I'm going to tell you how Jeremy deals with it. Jeremy would be like, I can't believe people ain't coming in here to clean this church. They've got way more respect than people in church. You don't think I'm busy? I have stuff to do. And I was just rant and developed that in my head, right? Debbie's in the kitchen maybe doing that, and she's so mad. She's so worked up. And she said, I walked through the foyer, and the doors to the bathroom were open, and I looked in the back room, and there's Linda Rice scrubbing the toilet, singing a song about Jesus. She was immediately, and I'm like, well, good grief, right? It changes your attitude. If you get around people who are joyful, it rubs off. But if you're only around negative people, I'm telling you, that rubs off too. Get around some happy people. Get a happy coach. Okay? I'm going to tell you another thing that has helped me, and I'm going to show you a visual reminder that I have that helps me in this, because I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, so I have to work at this. Okay? A few years ago, I read a book by a guy named Donald Miller. He's written a number of books. Blue Like Jazz is his most famous one. A Million Miles in 1,000 Years is where this came from. Donald was introduced to a man named Bob Goff. Bob is also a Christian author. He wrote the book Love Does. Great book. Bob is just this guy, if you've ever met him, he's got this abounding, like, joy. Like, he's just always happy. Like, he loves to go to Tom Sawyer Island, Disneyland, and set up office on the picnic table, and that's where he works. He's a lawyer and does other things. That's just crazy. He's just so happy all the time. And Donald, if you've read any of Donald's book, is not always happy all the time. And so Donald said to Bob Goff, he said, Bob, what's the secret to living a fulfilling life? And Bob didn't even hesitate. He said, don't be afraid to embrace whimsy. Don't be afraid to embrace whimsy. Now let me explain what that means. See, whimsy is the thing that you did really well when you were a child, But as you became an adult, your rational side of your brain took over and you stopped doing those things. Right? So what Bob would say is this. Bob would go, look, if you're driving down the road, you see a beautiful field and pasture, there's like a tree going in the middle of it, maybe, the sun's kind of going down, it's pretty, and you think to yourself, I should just go run through that field. Bob says, pull over the car and go run through the field. See, our adult minds go, well, that could be somebody else's field, and I'm not trespassing, and stuff. Bob's like, just figure it out later, man. Just embrace Wednesday and go, right? You just go and do that. And his mindset is, look, we're given opportunities to express joy and to feel joy and to experience joy every day. And we pass up on it because we're too grown up, because we sin and we've grown old, and our Father is younger than we. So, try to embrace Wednesday. Go to Walmart with my daughters at midnight last night, right? That's just try to embrace Wednesday. And so I needed a reminder. I needed a physical reminder. Some of you have seen this picture and you don't know why. This is in my office. See it over there? This is a pig, a painting of a pig, jumping off a dock into a pond. Okay? Now, I saw this in Pottery Barn, Old Town Pottery Barn in Foley, Alabama, and I said to my wife, that's the definition of Wednesday for me. That's it. And so what I've done is this. I take this in my office, wherever my office is, and I hang it up in my office. Why? So that I'll remember. Otherwise, I'll forget, because I'm grown up. That sometimes you just have to embrace Wednesday. You have to do those things. Get around people that are happy. Embrace Wednesday. And then here's an exercise I want to try this week. We've never really done anything like this before. This week, what I want you to do is I want you to pray that God will help you to recognize those moments. A good meal, your most comfortable shirt that you feel so good looking in, you know what I'm saying, right? Or that day that you woke up and that shower, whatever it was that you felt was so good, the sunrise that you see, whatever it is. And what I want you to do this week is as you are mindful of those moments, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a picture. Take a picture of the outfit, on, whatever. Take a picture of the sunrise or the sunset. Take a picture of the green grass. Take a picture of your kids playing. Take a picture of your family game night. Take a picture of the TV show that you're watching. Whatever it is, as you find those moments that are joyful, take a picture. And I want you to put this hashtag on it. Hashtag celebratecrosswind. Here's what I think would be so cool. See, we can go back on social media, we can search for that hashtag. I would love, how can it be, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Crosswindians to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures this week explode all over social media. Hashtag celebratecrosswind. Because we notice that there's joy to be had in the mundane. You do it on Facebook, you do it on Instagram, you do it on Twitter. Yes, you can do it on Snapchat. I'm too old to even understand how that works. Okay? Hashtag celebrate crosswind. Now, what I wanted to do as we kind of close is I wanted to take just a moment and I wanted to celebrate just kind of a milestone in our church. What God is doing and what God has done. You all are really aware, like we got cool stuff going on. This building will be ready in October and our children will be out there. We just hired our second full-time staff person, Matt Crosswind. It's so good to have him here. Today, I wanted to take just a moment and I wanted to celebrate what God has done. Because a lot of times we focus on what He's doing, we forget to kind of look back on what He's done. So I want to invite Kyle Phillips to come up here on stage with me. You can applaud more later. Listen, all we're doing is celebrate what God's done through time. You stand right there. I thought about letting Kyle read this, but I think I'm going to read it. Okay? For 2.5 years, Kyle has led worship as the worship leader here at Crosswind Church. In fact, when I showed up in June of 2014, Kyle was 6 months into his tenure here. And I can remember we had the conversation then. I was like, Kyle, you want to be the guy or are you just the filling guy? And he was like, whatever. So he's like, well, you're a lot easier than finding somebody else. And so he's been doing this for 2.5 years. Before that, you played in the band, you filled in for Chris Brewer when he was here, that sort of stuff. I'll just read this. For For 2.5 years, you have so graciously and skillfully led our congregation in worship of the Lord Jesus Christ. You have come home early from trips, left sick babies in the care of your wife, and sacrificed countless hours in order to prepare, rehearse, and lead our worship team. And now you get a much-needed and well-deserved break. Pause. When I saw Kyle out before today, I went, "Happy Sunday off." And he was like, Now, as we thought at Crosswind Church about how to thank you, celebrate you today, we couldn't think of a better way than to send you and your family on a little bit of relaxation. So, this November, you and your bride have passed the children off, considered. We've cleared our bride. Yeah, I hope so. And y'all will hop in the car and you will head down to Knoxville, Tennessee, where you'll stay for 3 days and 2 nights. Like you want a game show. 3 days, 2 nights. And it's in the hotel without the children. Feel free to lounge by the pool, watch something non-animated on TV, and sleep till noon. You like animated? Yeah. All right. And when Saturday, you've just been jaded, man. It's been so long. You haven't seen anything. Okay. And when Saturday rolls around, you and 102,000 of your closest friends will cheer on the balls and take on the SEC in Group 2, unless they screw it up, their first SEC East title since 2007. Yeah. And since you're already there, why don't you head on down to Calhoun on the river and enjoy a plate of Southern fried green tomatoes and some good old Tennessee barbecue on us. It's a small way for us to say thanks, to celebrate all that God has done for you, or through you, as we look forward to what God will continue to do through you at Crosswind Church. You will never know how much we as a church appreciate your service the last 2+ years, not counting all the other weeks of summer rotation playing guitar. Thank you, and as much as this pains me, go Vols. Amongst fellow believers, where else can we do it? And I think there's times we need to take time out and go, look what God has done, look what God is doing, look what God we get to be a part of, and just sit back and celebrate it. So today, we're going to do that. In just a minute, Matt and the band and the girls and everybody are going to come back up, and they're going to lead us in one song. It's the new song, if I'm not mistaken. And as we do that, let's just sing out with all our hearts and rejoice that there is no other King. There is no other God. That God has done great things, and He's doing great things, and He'll continue to do great things. I'm just so thankful we get to be part of it. Then when we get done singing, Hunter's going to come, He's going to pray, He's going to bless the food, and we're just going to move the party right over here. And just keep on celebrating what it is that God has done. This week, recognize those moments. Snap a picture of those moments. #CelebrateCrosswind. And let's see what it looks like when Christians look a little bit more like their heavenly